Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's presentation. I'm going to skip reading our mission because we all know what was last for grassroots. That's all I remember, but I'm going to read that through that today. I'm going to have Linda introduce who she's got as our presenters. Oh, here he is. Okay, Marie Butler is going to introduce.
Thank you. So here we are, Hastings Public Access Corporation. I'm sure you know either one. And it's kind of a tag team presentation today. We're going to have Linda Ray, Treasurer, talk first. I'm Marie Butler. I'm the president presently. Roy Shovelbein is our Executive Program Director. And Sharon Brooks is our Secretary, and she will present also. So, they thought that maybe we'll break the ice here, and I have a little joke to tell. If you don't mind a joke about nuns or sisters. There were these sisters of Mercy. There were two of them. They hopped in their car, and they were driving to their next place of work. And, well, they ran out of gas. Just forgot to check. You know, it never happened to anybody before. But anyway, they were perplexed. They got out of their car and they started kind of stewing around about what they were going to do because the gas station was really far away. They couldn't just walk there. Well, a man in a truck pulled up and he got out because he looked like they needed help. And he says, "What can I do? What is wrong?" And they said, "Well, we ran out of gas." He said, "I might be able to help you with that." And they said, "Well, great." And he said, "I could probably siphon some gas out of my truck for you to use in your car." And so, but he said, "I don't have anything to put it in." So the Sisters of Mercy went in the back of their car and they scrounged around and they found a bedpan. So they brought it out and the guy kind of raised his eyebrows and says, "Well, okay, we'll try that." So he siphoned some gas out for them. Then he said, "You know what?" He says, "I gotta get going. I am so late for work, if that's okay." They said, "Oh, sure, we've got it from here now." So they were, he took off and they started figuring out how they were to get this gas in their gas tank. Well, a police officer pulls up and the police officer walks up to them when he sees what they're doing and he says, "Sisters, I don't think that's going to work, but I appreciate your faith." So that's our joke. Now, has nothing to do with HPAC. Maybe you can find a connection somehow, I don't know. So we're going to let Linda Ray start us first with a little bit of history of HPAC. And we're all fighting colds or sinuses.
I hope I can speak well enough. I don't have a voice today, but what is Hastings Public Access? Actually, it's commonly known as a PEG, Public, Educational, and Government Channel. Public access channels are non-commercial television channels that are part of the cable system, providing a platform for community-based content, educational programming, and government content. They're mandated by local franchise agreements, typically paid for through fees that cable companies pay to the local governments for the use of right-of-way. In 1986, Hastings signed a franchise agreement, Hastings City signed a franchise agreement with Charter, and the local PEG, Hastings Public Access, was created. But it wasn't until May of 1989 that the public access actually became a corporation and was established and began broadcasting in September of 1989. And these were the organizations in town that actually were involved with the administration of Hastings Public Access. And originally, Central Community College was the lead institution for administration. And then in 2001, it decided that it could no longer continue that operation. And in 1992, then, Hastings Public Library became the primary origination site. And it was in the basement of the library, a very tiny little room that the whole operation was set up. And later, it was moved, and when the library started remodeling, it was moved to the basement of City Hall. And then, of course, again, as the city remodeled their building, then we had to move to the basement of the city auditorium. In 2004, HPAC contracted with the Chamber of Commerce to hire a half-time coordinator in the office space. Before that time, we were dealing with mostly volunteers who were doing all the operations, doing all the filming, doing all the setup. In June 2008, then broadcasting digital, and our bulletin board, which some of you may have seen online, was created. And as, of course, our budget is derived from the franchise fees from both Charter and Allo, and as people are no longer using cable, then of course our franchise fees have decreased, so we're in kind of a crisis at this point. That's all I have to say. Let's go some Sorry. Sorry.
At least you made it through that. So, just to tell you about a little bit about the board members. The board members have bylaws that we follow, and it was established many years ago that there should be 7 board members, and I'm going to see here the purpose. I'm sorry, I'm not all the way through. The purpose of the board members is to direct the affairs of the corporation. All voting rights shall be vested in the directors of the corporation, and each director has 1 vote. So we meet usually monthly, and we okay bills that our executive director has for us. We okay if she wants to invest or needs to invest in CDs, the money that we have. And I don't know if Linda said this or not, but you know, we do, sometimes it seems like we have a lot in CDs, but we are actually having to draw from those a little bit to keep our group going. So board members, as you saw on the other slide, are chosen, or at least we ask and we try to get board members who represent different areas or different parts of the city, like the Catholic schools and the public schools and Central Community College. Our vice president is Ken Grumberg, and he is from Central Community College. We have minutes of our meetings, and so if anybody ever wants to know what goes on in those meetings, you could ask for a copy of those. Let's see. We have officers, obviously, and the term for an officer is about a year. But we do elect officers about every year. And like any organization, we have trouble getting people to even be on the board. So sometimes officers end up being serving a little more than a year, for sure. Let's see. if I need to add any more about the board of directors. I think that's about it. I'm going to let Lori do her part, which is really the interesting part.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, my name is Lori Schuffelbein. I am the Executive Program Director. And as Linda mentioned, we are a public education and government channel. We have programming on Channel 16 on Allo and Channel 181 on Charter, also known as Spectrum. And we just recently heard that Allo is going to discontinue their cable services, and they are going to provide streaming services similar to Amazon Fire Stick. That's how I take it. Don't quote me on that, but that's how I understand it. And so the funding that we get from them is going to dwindle as well. And let's see. So this slide here shows agencies that are using HPAC programming, which is Faith Lutheran Church, First Presbyterian Church, First St. Paul's Lutheran Church, First United Methodist Church, Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce, the Hastings City Council, Hastings City Planning and Zoning, the Hastings Museum, Hastings Public Schools, Hastings Utilities, and In Search of the Lord's Way. And this is sponsored by the Church of Christ. So instead of them providing weekly church services, they sponsor this program, and it's very nicely done. Also, Kool-Aid Days, League of Women Voters, Nebraska State Historical Society, Peace Lutheran Church, Retail Committee, Redeemer Lutheran Church, St. Mark's Episcopal Church, and Veterans Day Committee, YWCA, and Zion Lutheran Church. Okay, so here is a breakdown of program producers. As you can see, 21% is government, 68% is public, 11% is education programming. You can go to the next slide. And this is a category breakdown. 4% is sports, which is typically Hastings Public Schools. 7% is music, again, typically Hastings Public Schools. 11% is political. 21% is meetings. 29% is informational. And 29% is religious. And even though we have a lot of religious program providers, we are not just a religious channel. And we have 3 part-time employees to help with the demand of filming programs. Some of you may already know Andy. He's standing there in the back. And then, if you go to the next slide. So besides the wonderful regular scheduled programs such as City Council, Planning and Zoning, School Board, Hastings Utilities, church programs, and Hastings Public Schools. Go to the next slide. We've been broadcasting Bunker University, Veterans Day parades, YWCA 4th of July parades, Veterans Day service, Coffee with the Senator, Hastings Museum programs, Bear of the Morning, State of the City, Town Hall meetings, Kool-Aid Days, League of Women Voters, various programs, Nebraska State Historical Society, Veterans Day Parade Marshal Award Dinner, Adams County Joint Property Tax Requesting Hearing, and Hastings Public Schools Sports and Programs. And those are just the highlighted ones. We have many, many more. So if you would like to list an event or even a nonprofit organization contact information on the community bulletin board, we wish that you'd give us 2-week notice, and you can do that by sending us an email at hastingspublicaccess@gmail.com. And I'll kind of give an example. like for League of Women Voters, we can indicate exactly when you meet, and we can have that on a rotation basis. And, or if you know of an event here in town, just let us know and we'd be happy to advertise that for you. We average 120 community bulletin board messages per day on a rotation basis. And that is between our video programs. And we have 112 agencies or organizations utilizing the community bulletin board. Next slide. And we have a YouTube channel. So you can find us at Hastings Public Access Channel. We always post League of Women Voters programs on our YouTube channel, and along with other special programs. And if you want to be the star of your very own show, it has to be educational, but we're always looking for new programming. And also, we wouldn't mind having another technician to help with the demands of filming. And so if any of you are available and would like to do something like that, just let us know. And the next slide. So I think Maria already talked about this, correct?
I don't. No. I didn't talk about that.
Okay.
Sharon did that.
Okay. And we'll have Sharon come up.
Walking in front of the camera across the screen. Yeah, thank you. We wanted to talk a little bit today about what's happening currently that makes the biggest difference to our community. What I think is interesting to a lot of people who've listened to what we've said so far is the fact that we're an outlier. In 1985, 86, 87, there were major networks and there were major cable channels, but we weren't thinking of 150 options on our TVs yet. But all of those would have been commercial, except for public television, public media. And the idea that commercially produced programming would be that which would sell a product or a service meant that there was a lot of information, particularly for local communities, that would probably never air. So there was a citizens movement in the United States to create, as Linda pointed out, the PEG channels. And it was funded by cities who gave right-of-way to the cable companies to put their cables in to provide that service. So for the privilege of doing that, they exacted a fee, and that fee then was in part given to local corporations like ours. We're at the point now, as Lori pointed out, and Linda and Marie, that cable is not the essence of how we get information, but it is the essence of how we fund it, and the funding is diminishing. So we're looking at opportunities for enhancing our bottom line, if you will, and I think some of the things that we'll look at in the future in the next slide, some ideas about how we can do it less expensive. So what we saw with YouTube, if everyone has what I call a front porch in their living room where you used to get magazines, newspapers, flyers, that front porch is now the clicker on our TV or the button on our computer. I'm going to move away from the mic. They usually do that. So now we're looking at different ways in which people actually want to get information. And even more importantly to this group, I think, when there's something to say, which is the essence of PEG channels, who has the opportunity to say it and in what way? Now, if I were teaching, I'd say, okay, how many times have you gone online and put out a message on Facebook? What else? Twitter? Snapchat? Oh, grandparents are here, I can tell. Instagram, you know, all these different ways, but not everyone is on all of them. So we pick our channels, basically. How we talk to our children, how we talk to our students, how we talk to our colleagues. But it's very much different from the sower on top of our Capitol, who indeed is a broadcaster, throwing it out from a common point to literally everyone, to what we know of if we're doing road cops as a road crop caster. In other words, we go down the line, we send out a message to individuals who are in small groups. So the idea of a PEG channel having the role it had before, or we actually had a chance to have 2 channels. If we'd filled up one, we could have a second. Because there were so many things going on in the community that commercial television didn't have time to broadcast, and it wasn't commercially viable. We were joking the other day about midget football. Every grandparent who didn't want to sit in the stands on a very, very cold Sunday afternoon watched the videos. But now I think parents are taking the videos and just sharing it to the one grandparent who wanted to see it. So we've changed the way we've done things. So I think the next slide puts up some of the ideas about what we do next, and we're garnering information from everyone. We could do polls, we could do surveys, we could have forums like we are today. We could consider partnering with other media. Now, here's the teacher question. Can you imagine what other media we might potentially partner with? Maybe some of you have seen this in another community somewhere. Well, many newspapers have gone online with reader services so that people who have visual impairments can hear what's in the newspaper because someone's reading it. So in a sense, they've begun to broadcast print. There are communities where the conversation starts with an editorial and then goes to a radio station or to a PEG channel. So there are lots of different ways in which communities can partner based on what's needed that one form of media doesn't have that another might. And then one of the things I think Linda touched on, originally, we were the means by which people could have their voice because the technology was available. Either we would find someone talented like Andy and Lori, and they would help us, kind of an apprenticeship, if you will. Or if someone was really gung-ho and learned how to do it, and many of the young people we know are really good with their cell phones, they could create their own programming, and if it was appropriate to a larger audience than just their friends and the teacher for an assignment, then it could be a part of what we would offer the community. So, just tell you a little bit of story. One of the first things we did when the YWCA had the 4th of July parade, Dennis Kellogg from Channel 5 videotaped that. He and I did it. I did it for HPAC, and he was out there doing it for Channel 5. They couldn't run the whole parade. But the idea that they could run snatches and maybe interview the mayor or the drum major or the poor YW person who was in charge of the entire day and didn't have time to talk on television, interview those folks, then have snippets from the parade. But they could take my video and you could run the whole thing. And that's the difference. So, we're kind of looking for ideas now. Some of them can come with what I call in kind. That is, if you've got a cell phone and you know how to use it, you don't have to have Andy and a camera. Now, Andy would like to think that he could give me some advice on how to do it well. And he'd certainly like to tell me that quite often. But if you know Colleen Williams, Colleen Chicago, she's one of those folks who's an entrepreneur in that area. And she's enjoyed connecting communities clear across the state through her media. So that's where we are today. We're looking for ideas. The mayor and the council, right, would like us to look for sources of income. They're perfectly willing, as I understand it, to continue the percentage that they can give us of what the cable companies give them each month. But that amount of money, as Marie mentioned, is going down. So if it actually is a little less expensive to do some kind of programming, maybe we should do it that way. How many of you have seen the city council or the school board or maybe the women voter meetings on YouTube? Yeah. And that's absolutely fantastic, but that's not cable anymore. So moving over into another form of communication is certainly something we can do. Now, who handles questions? If you have a question, I can read it back or say it back to someone. If you want to, is your technique to stand up and...
Anybody have any questions?
This is a group that we've appreciated and as a source of information for our community. Almost every meeting we have when we're in reports, because it's not as boring as school board meetings. And when you have your speakers up here, they're talking about a topic that is of very keen interest to the community locally at the time that you present it. And that's golden. Trina.
Is it possible to pursue having the Adams County Commissioner meetings on, since it is now broadcast on YouTube, so that people in Adams County could actually get that? I know before, when it was just cable and it was in town, it wasn't, all of Adams County. But now, since it can be on YouTube, it could go to all of Adams County. Is that possibility to pursue having Adams County Commissioner meetings on?
She's got a good, strong voice. Did everyone hear that good question? Okay. I've got part of an answer on that, but Lori's got the better answer.
I don't know about that, but I did not know that they were doing that. Last I knew, they didn't want to be filmed.
Oh.
So, I would love to look into that, and that would be very easy for us to broadcast. Yeah.
I think the only complication that I remember from the days when we first thought about it, way back when they were on the first group, is that their meetings last, get this, all day.
Yes.
And then they have a board of equalization, I think, and then another type of committee that are all public meetings for the most part.
I think that's changed though. I think they're down to just a couple hours, aren't they?
They usually are 2 hours. The only one that I ever went to that was 3 was when they had each department come and give their presentation as to how much money they were asking for.
Their budget hearing.
Which would be dynamite television, I would think, for anybody who cared about, yeah. Yeah, this is a school board right here. If you care about your roads and your zoning and things like that, then you might tune in while you're knitting your best Christmas presents or whatever. Because some of those dollar figures, right, Lori, are some of the most important things people care about. So yeah, it might well work.
Huge. Good question.
Any other questions or? No? How do you know how many viewerships you're getting?
That's a really good question. Who wants to take that one?
So we used to know that we had 5,000 subscribers, and meaning households. And all we know now is that the cable subscribers have dwindled, and a lot of people are going to streaming. So we're trying to figure out how we can still get content and how we can still stay afloat, but be able to produce that content, streaming or however else we can get that out there. No, I wish we knew how many.
Lori, you did get it confused though, right? Could you explain how you know who's viewers, who's viewing?
Oh,
And also,
I can demo.
the YouTube.
So-
YouTube.
Oh yes, on YouTube, we do know how many clicks people are watching, and there's been a lot of League of Women Voter,
Based on those numbers. Like for the forums.
yeah, for the forums, like the candidate forums,
Yes.
there's a lot of views.
They're in the there was a couple of them in the hundreds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The city council and mayor were literally in the hundreds of views.
yeah. And then also, if we're having technical issues, I know about it. So, which is good, that means somebody's watching. So,
I just want to give a shout out to Lori. Through the years, how we've had to adjust, how we even get content. You know, remember the VHS tapes? Used to drop it by in a mailbox like thing, and so it's become, in a way, easier, more streamlined,
yeah.
just to shoot it to her. So it's
Yeah, typically digital. So,
Has any thought, or have you met resistance on having people pay for their advertisements, or?
so we did reach out to our church providers to see if they would be willing to help. And we haven't heard back from, well, we heard back from one, and they wanted to know how many viewerships, which that's a legitimate,
Yeah.
and I wish I knew the answer to that, but so far that's all we've done. But that's a good question.
Or even like a membership, so much a year and you get unlimited amount of advertising on the calendar, or the board, but
we've been exploring ways to raise funds too, but yeah.
So it's technically non-commercial channel,
yeah.
but we can obviously promote any nonprofit. Yeah, it has to be a nonprofit organization. Obviously, if there's a local event going on, we can definitely get the word out that way. But no, we talked about that as well. That's a good question.
Did I understand in one of your first charts that some funding comes from government?
So if you have cable at home, whether it's Allo or Charter, on your cable bill, a certain percentage of your cable bill goes to the city. So the city gets 5% of your bill, of the Charter bill. And then in return, the city gives us 1%.
Okay, so it's city government.
Or whoever holds the franchise agreement with the cable company.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's no
That'd be
federal
a county.
government involved.
So how does that work with the number of churches? Churches show their whole service via Facebook, but also the public access channel. So there are two people filming them?
No, it's the same program. So we don't film, they provide us with their,
With the
Church
Facebook
service, yes.
program? Okay.
If you have no other questions, be sure you take a look at this screen and if you can help us out, that'd be great.
and that's all I have.
For the group, I think the League of Women Voters really appreciates having you do that for us.
And we enjoy broadcasting for you, so thank you so much.
You do a great job.
All right.
Do you want to pass